I might have turned it off.
Welcome this morning. Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga, a place that has proudly been part. Good thing I have a pocket down my shirt.
It seems better. Oh, a green light is much better. Oh, aren't we imperfect in this world, y'all? Like, nothing is ever perfect. If it was, I'd be a little suspicious, quite frankly. Let's start again. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. I am the Reverend Mandy Goheen, and it is my great honor to be serving this congregation in my 7th year. I have just come back from vacation and gone back to Ohio and still came back because I prefer Chattanooga over Southern Ohio. I just have to say I'm pretty fond. And in the car on the way here this morning, I said, I'm afraid I've become a Southerner because now I like crepe myrtle. So if you love this place and you believe in this place and the justice it brings and the love it brings, you're so welcome here. If you're open to opportunities and thinking and leaning into the hard conversations and understanding your privilege, you're welcome here. If you're ready to question everything and lead with your heart and not be people of only declarations but actions, you are welcome here. Welcome on this day where we're going to talk about what happened before Selma, before the march from Selma to Montgomery, and what happened specifically right here. Well, not here because this building didn't exist yet, but with this community in a time when everything was changing. Does anybody have any announcements? I have an announcement. We're going to have a conversation called Afterthoughts after church. The board has graciously supplied us with a very heavy good snack, and we're going to circle up and we're going to respond to how and what would we do if we received a telegram from Dr. King asking us to go somewhere. How would we react? Who would send that telegram? And what would be our actions next? And also really good snacks, so it'll be a great conversation. So you're invited to that. Next week, I want to tell you that our worship service will be a Minecraft-themed service focused on blessing our backpacks and devices to get ready for the new year of learning in whatever way we approach that. And is there any other announcements? Nope. Wow, this is new. Gary, can you turn that TV on so I can see? Thanks. Welcome, welcome. At UUCC, we acknowledge that this has not always been a place of ours, and that it isn't even really that. We prepare to light our chalice, but we want to acknowledge that this land, which our sanctuary stands on in Chattanooga, is the ancestral territory of the Cherokee people who cared for these ridges and riverbanks long before forced removal and the Trail of Tears. We honor their enduring presence and commit ourselves to the ongoing work of truth, reparations, and indigenous justice. Please join me in the land acknowledgement. At UUCC, we acknowledge that our church sits on Cherokee, Muskogee, and Yuchi land. We are a people of covenant with each other and ourselves. We have great acknowledgement of how we will get together and be in community. This is particularly important today as we continue our conversation within the context of this covenant that holds us. Please join me in reading our UUCC covenant. We journey together bound in the interdependent web of existence. We embrace diversity, own our conflicts, and assume good intentions. When we fail, we begin again in love. Justice and compassion shall be our watchwords, and beloved community our goal. And now, I'd like you to invite you to join me in the chalice lighting. And I want to say something fun. Jen is not here. If anybody knows Jen Horney, Jen is not here. And if Jen was here, this would be lit already. I'll have to prepare better for no Jen days. Please join me in the chalice lighting words. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And now, I invite everyone to rise in body and or spirit and join me in our opening song, Wake Now, My Senses. Please be seated. Now it's our time for all ages, and I feel a little, oh, thank goodness. Whoo, there's somebody here to read it. Listen, I've been gone for a month, and I realized that Kelsey was gone, and as the service started, I was like, is somebody reading this story? Thank you, Robin, so much. All right, come on up, friends. Anybody who's young or young at heart and would like to come up. Do you need a microphone holder, or are you? Oh. Oh, goodness. Probably should turn my big mouth off as I coo at babies. All right. Oh, please. Oh my gosh. Oh, he looks like Dad.
All right. The story today is a sweet smell of roses. And I'll get there. After a night of soft rain, there is a sweet smell of roses as my sister Minnie and I slip past Mama's door and out of the house down Charlotte Street. Since it's up there.
Oh, I got it.
Past the early morning milkman, over the cobbled bridge, and through the curb market, to where everybody waits to march. Minnie and I are only waist high to most of them. Waist high, Minnie and me, waist high, holding hands and waiting to march. There is a sweet smell of roses as everyone waits for Dr. King to speak. And the colors, bright light from the sun on the flowers beside the road, as we listen to Dr. King on the megaphone say, "We are right. We march for equality and freedom." Then we start to march. Minnie and me, we look ahead and walk faster, like him, clapping in time with our feet, looking ahead, just like him. There is a sweet smell of roses, even as we march past the people who scream and shout and say, "You are not right. Equality can't be yours." Then we look farther down the road and keep holding hands, feeling a part of it all, walking our way towards freedom. There is a sweet smell of roses as more people start marching with us, pouring out of the side streets, clapping and singing, "Freedom! Freedom!" Then someone picks me up and puts me on his shoulders. Somebody picks Minnie up too, and we are high above everybody, still marching. There is a sweet smell of roses as we gather in the center of town, all together, all here, listening to Dr. King as the sun gets higher in the sky. He talks about peace, love, and nonviolence, and change for everybody, and the sun gets higher in the sky. When it's time to go, we skip back hand in hand, Minnie and me, singing freedom songs along the streets, through the curb market, over the cobbled bridge, and past the mailman, to our house on Charlotte Street. Then there is Mama, worried face, waiting for us. She smiles after a while, hugging us, then takes our hands, and we tell her about the march. The curtains float apart, and there is a sweet smell of roses throughout all our house.
Thank you so much. And now we'd like to invite our children to go down for religious education and all of us to sing on the way out. As our children move to their classrooms, let us settle into a moment of quiet reflection. In this living tradition, we bring our whole lives into the sanctuary. Our grief, our gratitude, our weary bones, and our deepest hopes. Today, our hearts hold both the joy of being together and the heavy weight of the world struggling for justice. I invite you now into silence for a moment. Hold unstated joys and concerns in this room. Hold the things that fit here in community. Hear the sound of breath and the people around you witnessing this space and this time. And now I'd like to invite you forward to light candles for joys and concerns, and I would like to ask my beloved Andre to come up and help me. You can tell I never have a plan. And you are welcome to receive hugs by me if you like. It's always consent. And anything on your heart is welcome forward for lighting a candle. Why do we light extra candles in this space? Well, not everybody gets up, do they? But everybody is here and included. Not everybody is here, are they? Some people are not able to be here. Some people have other things going on, cool vacations, getting ready for school. Let's take one more moment of collective silence together and hold the complicated parts of our life. The grief, the joy, and the innumerable things in between. Spirit of love and life, hold us for all the things we did or did not light candles for in this space today. May it be so, and blessed be. So I'm a big history nerd, and some things have been happening in the world this week that have gotten me nervous and lit up and ready to go. And I go in those times to my source material, and Mark Morrison Reed wrote the Selma Awakening, which is the source material for looking at how we responded to Selma in a way that was both thoughtful and stretched Unitarian Universalism in new ways, in ways that we weren't expecting, because we have a tradition, and anybody who's been around for a while, of writing really good resolutions about the way we might think, but not necessarily getting in the car, right? It started the minute we got to these shores and Congregationalism started, and we wanted the people to have the power, and it's fine. But how do we go from a conversation and a resolution to action that is natural and important? I'm always curious about how other people reacted when they got the message that Dr. King was calling all ministers to Selma. And on Long Island, Farley Wheelwright, which I love his name, by the way, minister of Nassau County Unitarian Universalist Church, felt reluctant to go. Barring with his consciousness, he spent the afternoon calling friends who he knew wouldn't make the trip. He would go if they would go. But his conscience was not so easily bought off, and on Monday night, he left for Selma. After Miller's wife dropped him off at the airport, this is another guy, he spotted Reeb at the ticket counter. By 11 Monday night, they, along with dozens of others, were on their way to Atlanta. By Tuesday morning, Miller and Reeb were in Selma. Coming from the West Coast, Olson arrived in the afternoon, and they went and ate together in Walker's Cafe. When they all got to Selma, the Unitarians and Universalists had the audacity, I'm kidding, but kind of not, to be frustrated with the speed of the civil rights movement. There were some things, and we're just going to flip into this. There were some things going on in Selma then, and you just don't start this in a vacuum. There's a lot of context to this, but the first place I want to start is even getting there was a problem. Even getting there was dangerous. And I am so proud of the ministers who served this church, because on this wall, the three guys towards the painting on the top all went to Selma. I don't know what was in place in this congregation at that point to make it seem like it was an easy transition, and for them to get this telegram on Monday and already be there by Tuesday, but they did. But it didn't just start on Tuesday. It just didn't start in a vacuum. It started when someone named Jimmy Lee Jackson was murdered. Today we're not going to talk about the whole history of Selma. We're going to talk about the preparation and what was coming. Imagine at 7:30, the alarm clock goes off, and the phone rings, and the telegram arrives to drop everything. Leave your job, leave your comfort, get down here, we need your body on the line. The hard truth is most of us check our Google Calendar when we get that call, right? We wonder about what we could be doing instead. Are we expendable enough to go join people on the front line? Oh, wait, I had vacation this week. I don't think I can make it. I had all the excuses this winter not to go to Minneapolis, good and bad. I do not do well being that cold, and I was a little afraid, honestly, of being cold. I was afraid how I would react health-wise to being in that environment. I know lots of people in Minneapolis, but I hesitated. And I'm going to work on that because I want to be ready next time that the call goes out for clergy. And I want all of us to be ready and understand how we're going to react together. So there's a lineage. So Jimmy Lee Jackson is murdered, and a march called Bloody Sunday happens. Bloody Sunday is the first time that people go across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and they're met on the other side with terror. They're met with guns, they're met with gas, they're beat, there are state troopers on horseback, and they're literally beaten back across the bridge and retreat. And this telegram goes out on Monday morning. And it says, it's on the front of your cover of order of service, but it says, in the vicious maltreatment of defenseless citizens of Selma, where old women and young children were gassed and clubbed at random, we have witnessed an eruption of the disease of racism which seeks to destroy all of America. No American is without responsibility. All are involved in the sorrows that rise from Selma to contaminate every crevice of our national life. That part got me. This wasn't just about Selma. It didn't start there. Jimmy Lee Jackson was marching with his grandpa and his mom because somebody was in jail in his county for voting rights. And so he's murdered, and then Bloody Sunday happens, and then all these ministers get there, and the next thing they do is something which I think is one of the most brilliant tactical moves of the civil rights movement. It is called Turnaround Tuesday. Has anybody heard of that? So they're having trouble getting the right permits to march on the road between Selma and Montgomery. And they already have run into this terrible group of folks, and the National Guard's been called out, and it's really dangerous for Black people at that point, and for, quite frankly, white people who associate and are being called race traitors in that period. So it's really dangerous, and they're getting there, and they're getting to work, and they come up with this plan that they're going to cross the bridge on Tuesday, kneel and pray, get all these people who are out to get them fired up, and turn around and go back across the bridge. That's the day that the Reverend James Reeb, who is a Unitarian Universalist, he's actually doing mission work in Boston and has kind of become less infatuated with the faith and more infatuated with one-on-one work. He's there. He's actually, with a couple other ministers, they go back to the diner after this Turnaround Tuesday. They're all really excited. This has really worked. It's good stuff. They're together. They're building community. And after they eat dinner, they go out, and a van pulls up, and they're beaten. And Reverend Reeb is beaten so badly that he needs medical care, and the hospital in Selma will not take him because of what's going on. So this happens, and so they have to go find money, write a check to take this guy to the hospital in Birmingham, which is 90 minutes away, by the way, and he dies there several days later. And the problem with the difference between the death of Jimmy Lee Jackson and Reverend James Reeb is the death of Reverend James Reeb gets the Voting Rights Act signed, and nobody paid attention when a Black man was killed. So there's a tension even amongst the people and the liberals, because that shift and that acknowledgement of Jimmy Lee Jackson dying was never really put at the forefront. In fact, there are still hate crimes against his grave in Alabama. They had to keep taking his gravestone back because people were shooting it still. So this is no joke in our history. This is no joke in rural Alabama. This is actually no joke here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I want to bring us back to here because something happened this week. You know how one of those things changes everything? I've had that happen a lot lately. But a church here in Chattanooga handed out ballots this week of how people should vote, and had candidates speaking from the pulpit during Sunday service. And I want to talk a little bit about how that is zero our tradition. We are the original separation of church and state people. We don't want our kids in school enforced into Bible classes, and we've fought against that. And we don't want candidates telling a group of impressionable people who have literally been brainwashed lately that they need to vote a certain way. It's scary and dangerous. Meanwhile, we're like, we're going to have a candidate for him. How did we do this without getting in trouble? Well, easy. You do it in the evening. You invite everybody. If not everybody comes, cool, that's on them, right? It's not that hard to follow the rules. But I am also a little proud. Clergy in Chattanooga, liberal clergy in Chattanooga, wrote a letter and responded to the Times Free Press article about what happened, and it was published this week. And our letter was to dissent that happened and to call for a separation of church and state, because I certainly don't want them coming in here telling us how to have church, because that will be rough. And then I'll get in a big fight, and you'll have to raise bail money for me, and it'll be very complicated. But what was going on here? Now, what's going on here? There's some parallels, I think, to how the time is going in 2026 and the time then. And so on the global scale, in 1965, the Cold War, Vietnam, Jim Crow, voting suppression, backed by state terror. We have the second wave of the Great Migration happening. Black people are moving to the north and are being empowered by labor movement to vote and to gain traction and to take the context that they've been segregated into in the spaces and build voting power to elect Black leaders. And that's the first time that it happens in history. This is around 1965, since right after the Civil War, right after that period. All those Black leaders are gone. There hasn't been Black leaders in the Congress or the Senate for years. And these spaces in Chicago, because of labor organizing, are able to organize voting and get Black leaders elected again. It's a really important time. And the pressure on the South because of that to suppress voting becomes high. It's a catalyst and a reaction. Here, we had Black people in the pulpit. Cool, right? We had a minister get arrested at this place called the Lion's Den, which sounds super sketchy to me, for sneaking in without A, a female companion, and B, with 3 Negroes, as it said in the Times Free Press. He was arrested for trespassing, and the church gathered around him and helped him get off the hook. They helped fund it. He went to jail, all kinds of, and I blush to say, fun things for justice. He also was very pro-marijuana and wrote a lot of articles about it. So this guy was pretty fun. He is the second in from the painting. Cute guy, good stuff. He goes on for a long career. It's the time in '65 of the Howard High sit-ins and slow integration, urban renewal, tearing through Black neighborhoods. But now in 2026, we celebrate things like Gig City on the surface, but deeply fractured gentrification and housing disparities in the background, not to even begin discussing immigration. In 1965, UUCC was a young church putting its actual minister on the front lines, unless he snuck off, which I'm going to look into this more because I have no idea the real facts behind what happened and how he got there. But now, we're in a place of danger in liberal religion, of becoming comfortable and intellectual again. But instead, I think we need to become a launch pad for action, don't you? The same fault lines are running through Selma in 1965, run down Market Street today, which brings us to the hard question. How do we show up here without being tourists, number one? And when we get ready to go on this trip to Selma, how do we show up there as pilgrims and not tourists? Jimmy Lee Jackson died on February 18th in 1965. James Reeb died on March 11th. And there is one more martyr of our people that we owe our homage to. She dies after the march. Her name is Viola Liozzo. She is actually a kid born in Chattanooga. She moved with her dad, who was injured in the mines, and somehow they wound up in Detroit. Raised Catholic, lots of kids. She wanted more, and she wandered into a Unitarian Universalist church. And the next thing she knew, she was answering that telegram, and she was in a car on the way by herself to Selma, Alabama, with her kids, staying with her best friend, also named Violet, I think. Anyway, fascinating character. She goes and she's doing the work. Her feet hurt. Everybody took the wrong clothes to Selma, by the way. Bring good shoes when we go to Alabama. That's one good lesson of the civil rights movement. They were walking barefooted a lot. They had their church clothes on. But after the march and after all the celebration and everything, she doesn't leave. She stays and drives people back and forth between Selma and Montgomery. And she's murdered on the highway by Klansmen, who are also, one of the Klansmen is probably an FBI informant. Following that, J. Edgar Hoover runs a slander campaign against her. And she's only in the last 10 years been really celebrated. And one of the things we will do when we go to Selma and Montgomery is we will go to that space on that road where she died. And it is an incredible place to be in, not for some kind of gruesome tourism, by the way, but for a place where a mom singing freedom songs in the car with an 18-year-old boy died because she believed in voting. And just listen to the list of martyrs. They're UUs, friends. This is our place to be engaged in this movement. It's our place to empower voting, but not tell people how to vote. To plaster signs. I know, I've heard rumor, Social Justice Committee and beyond and other people, that they're working on getting a voting billboard. That, showing up, registering to vote, getting ourselves ready if somebody needs a ride, getting ourselves ready not to go to the easy neighborhoods to knock on doors and canvass. Go to the places where people are being treated poorly. Get those folks understanding that the gerrymandering in today's world is same as the segregation then, and that we need to register to vote, and they're not powerless. Because we know that. We're pretty comfortable people if we're in this room, right? We know we're not powerless. We know a wave can take down the oppression that's happening today. But I'm growing weary of losing rights for women and losing rights for queer people, and I'm growing weary of state-sanctioned murder of people who are trying to come to this country just to have a job, and quite frankly, not a job anybody here wants to do. It's time to vote. That's the least we can do, and it's time for your minister and some of us to get a little braver and a little louder and not mind when our name's on a page in the Times Free Press. Were there repercussions when the minister spoke up in 1965? Yes. The church was firebombed twice. That's not a reason not to do the work of voting rights in 2026. It is a reminder of the tenacity of the people we come from in this church. It is a reminder that we are strong and we do not need to be afraid to vote. What if Dr. King called us on Monday? The truth is, we don't need a telegram from 1965. The crisis of human rights, voter suppression, and racial equality already exists at our doorstep. It's time to get ready for our trip on October 18th, 16th? Oh, 16th. I'll be back on the 18th. Wait, no. I should never tell dates. Okay. It's time to get ready for that, and it's time to take some moments, both the people who are going to stay here and anchor us and the people who are going to go, to decide how we turn this into a pilgrimage that launches us into this year of elections and strengthening voting rights, and not just be tourists. Here in this church, not be tourists. Out in Chattanooga, you get it. It keeps going out and out and out. And I know this is an oversimplification, but we know what we're doing. We know how to love the world. We know about the inherent worth and dignity of everybody. We've just got to do it. Stop writing resolutions and take some action. May it be so, and blessed be. After being gone a minute, I was nervous, y'all. Thank you. I needed that. All right, I want to invite you up for the social justice moment. I told you I was going to set you up good, right?
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Peter Elvin, and being 80, I need crib notes. Anyway, the topic is inequality. And before I get into the inequality part, I just want to make a comment that some Unitarians believe in heaven. And when they get into heaven, there's St. Peter that's going to welcome them into this gated part. And other Unitarians do not want to go to heaven because they don't want to live in a gated community. Anyway.
We needed that, thank you.
Anyway, okay, so inequality. I'm going to give my reasons why it's an issue, and I'm going to give some solutions. Again, this is my thing. So anyway, let's just look at the federal minimum wage. This was introduced by FDR in 1938, and it started off, because that was the Great Depression, almost the end of the Great Depression, at 25 cents an hour. And up until 1968, there were increases, and it ended up at what it is today at $7.25. I have to look at my notes. That works out to $31,200 a year. I don't think a cockroach can live on that. I don't know. But anyway, I looked up with the AI, what is $7.25 in today's dollars? And I checked it twice. It comes up to $69. There was an 800% inflation. So those that propose a $15 raise really is negligible, but at least it's a help. You can't even live on $15 a day. Oh, yeah, just about the money and how inflation affects what one pays. When we were in Fort Lauderdale, we used to use in the nicest possible sense, it was a win-win for both the halfway house and ourselves to do work. And I was paying $12 and with a bonus. And so many years later, we come up now to 2026 when we had to, to do a few more things. We're now living from Fort Lauderdale, living here. I wanted to pay, about $14. And my wife said, no, $14 is ridiculous. So anyway, I ended up paying $20, which is still incredibly reasonable. But you can't live on $20 a day. Anyway, so what can we do about this? Okay, one solution. Unions. There are 168 million workers in this country. There are only 16.2 million union workers. And you know, the unions are incredibly useful. I'm going to talk. I am a unionist, and the unions provide very good wages. They have benefits, pension benefits, and health. So anyway, there are the 11.9 independent contractors. They have nothing. That number in this country, they don't have any benefits. They're at-will employees. They can be fired at any time. So it's not a good idea. So anyway, I belonged in Canada. When I went to Canada, in my passport, I had to pass a means test and God knows what else. And in my passport, before I left, I was accepted. I had marine engineer. And the person at the embassy in London said, we don't need any marine engineers. I said, okay, cross that out and put draftsman. They did. I got admitted. Anyway, I never thought I would need to go back to sea again. So anyway, that was 1970. By 1980, you remember there was an awful crisis with the mortgages. And in Canada, it would be renewed every 5 years. It would be renegotiated. And at that time, you might recall, it was up to 22% for a mortgage. I thought I was doing well at getting it for 5 years at 18%. That was not enough. I wasn't making enough money. The sea was the option for me in Canada. So I joined the Canadian Marine Officers Union. And then, anyway, I did quite well, became a chief engineer. The pay was incredibly good. And let me just see, what were the other ones I belonged to? Anyway, the AMO in the US, the AMO was absolutely marvelous to me. Again, unbelievable pay. And I then joined another union a little bit later, the MEBA, Marine Engineers Beneficial Association. Again, the pay was unbelievable. And what was fantastic about this union, I don't know whether you've heard of, you're going to have to remind me, Dev, what was it called, the pension? Yeah, well, it was a life pension, but anyway, that was a term which I just lost all my notes. But anyway, it was one of these pensions that don't exist anymore, where it's until you die. Now today, that's all been changed. There are 401ks if you're lucky, and sometimes the corporations might chip in about 3% or something like that. That's better than nothing, but it's still pretty awful. Anyway, there's one of my heroes, Robert Reich. He was the Secretary of Labor under Clinton, and for 40 years he taught wealth and poverty at the Berkeley University. And you can go online with YouTube and have a university course for I think there are about 15 lessons, and it's absolutely free. It's absolutely fantastic. And not only Robert Reich, every Saturday he has the coffee clutch. Has anybody watched the coffee clutch? Very good. And again, it's uplifting, to listen to Robert Reich. I mean, he's quite a person. And anyway, he wrote a book, and as you know, he's incredibly short. He's about 4'6". And anyway, he wrote a book coming up short. It was, anyway, he was quite a brain. Okay, so we talked about unions. And I think a better solution, way better than that, are cooperatives for profit. And what does that mean? It means that the workers actually own the business. They run it. They take a vote on who's going to be the executives and who's going to be fired, which is very rare, or who's going to be hired. And one of them, and a man called a economist, Richard Wolff. I don't know whether you're familiar with him. He's actually another one of my heroes. In 1912, cited the case for this cooperative. And it was about the Spanish, and I have to just pronounce it. I won't have to look at my notes. It's Mondragon. It's a Spanish cooperative. It's unbelievably successful. We're talking about what is it? Just can't read my notes here. Oh, it's $11.2 billion, billion euros, and that was in 2026. And bearing in mind, all these profits are shared between the owners. They have 70,000 employees or owners of the different businesses, and they tried to introduce the cooperatives to this country, and it didn't work. There are non-profit cooperatives, for electrical cooperatives, but that's non-profit, not quite the same. So that was started in Mondragon was started by a priest in Spain in 1952, and it's incredibly successful, and I'm just hoping that it will come over here. So let's see. Let's just look at executive pays. U.S. executive pays in this country in 2024, the top corporations in this country are earning 632 times the minimum wage. An average corporation was 281 to 290 times minimum wage. Now, with the cooperative that I just mentioned in Spain, this is 6 to 9 times the minimum wage, a heck of a difference. So anyway, in summation, we need unions or cooperatives, healthcare for all, childcare, and higher wages. And I just want to mention a prime example before I close of where a cooperative could have come in very handy. You had Carrier, a huge AC manufacturer in Indiana, in actually 2016, when Trump was in power. They went to all sorts of ways to encourage Carrier to stay in Indiana, and they were given all sorts of bribes to stay. And after several months, they said, oh, heck with it, we're going to Mexico. So here is an example where this company could have been taken over by the workers. Anyway, I'm fingers crossed that things will get better. Here endeth the lesson.
Generosity is a spiritual practice. What we do with our money shows what we value. The offering collected here sustains this sanctuary, supports our staff, and fuels our justice ministries moving from this space and beyond. Thank you for supporting us today. You may place your gift in the collection plate or donate online at uucc.org/donate or by scanning the QR code in your bulletin. Let the offering now be received. Please join me in the offertory response. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice and act with compassion, embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. And now rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn, number 414, as we leave this friendly place. Please be seated. Before we extinguish our chalice, take a breath and carry this truth with you. We cannot live on borrowed courage of our ancestors. The bravery of 1965 belongs to 1965. The question before us today is, what will we do with our hours and days? And while you walk out these doors into the August heat, prepare your minds. Read, study, understand the systems around you. Know the context. Sharpen your analysis. Look at Chattanooga through the lens of Selma. But most importantly, soften your hearts. Build the capacity to feel the weight of the world without turning away. I'm going to say that again. That's a rough one. Build the capacity to feel the weight of the world without turning away. Our newspaper got bought this week. We've got to be careful. Be thoughtful about where you get your information. Do not get sucked in to the drama that I've quite frankly got sucked into of a stupid hat that threw me off. A stupid hat that the person who is the president put on about running in 2028. Anyway, it was very rough. So, and then I was like, oh, that's the hook. I bit it, right? And I got sucked down into the reality that, I'll see what happens in a couple years. But we're going to vote, and we're going to use our energy to keep that from happening, and we're going to work together. And we're going to keep building beloved community here and eat good foods and nourish our hearts and souls and soften our hearts to build the capacity to feel the weight of this world without turning away. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. Please join us. We're going to take 15 minutes to grab some snacks, turn the sanctuary into a circle. It's great, heavy snacks. The board, thank you again, board, for feeding us today. I have an hourglass. We're going to talk for exactly an hour about how we would react to receiving a telegram calling us somewhere that is a little bit scary, but the world needs us. So join us afterwards. Have a great week. Thank you. Great. I don't love having a cough.